What's up guys, welcome to another range day. Today we're going to be shooting my IWI Galil Ace Gen 2 SBR in 545. Guys, if you enjoy the content that I'm making, then please make sure to like and subscribe and leave me a message down in the comments section. I hate asking, but it really does help the algorithm a lot, so I would really appreciate it. And if you ring the bell icon, you should get notifications when new videos are released as well. Additionally, if you want more Chester's Hobbies content, you can follow me on Instagram where you can see what I'm working on and get previews of upcoming videos. I'm also pretty active on Reddit if you'd like to follow along with the conversations there. Alright, well that's enough of that, so back to the gun of the day, my Gen 2 Galil Ace SBR. Now the Galil Ace is considered by many people to be essentially an improved AK. They feature milled receivers with an excellent fit and finish, a left side charging handle with a built-in dust cover, ambidextrous safety levers, and a full-length picatinny rail on top. They're built to much more exacting standards than a traditional AK, and they're known to run extremely well. The only things that really kept me from taking a more serious look at them over the years is that I already had multiple AKs in 7.62x39, and I felt like the Ace didn't really have the same classic character of a traditional AK. So I always kind of ended up talking myself out of it. But I gotta be honest here and say that this is kind of a special one for me, guys, because this is actually the gun that got me into 5.45x39. I'd avoided getting into 5.45 for years because I didn't want to invest in a new caliber, but once I got this gun in my hands at a local shop, I really liked the feel, so I started doing a little bit more research. Originally, I was trying to talk myself into the 7.62x39 version, but when I researched it, I learned that the 7.62x39 version is pretty overgassed, and I also already had several 7.62x39 guns sharing my ammo supply. So I decided to take the plunge and grab this version and give 5.45 a shot. What I very quickly learned is that the 5.45x39 round is really pleasant and fun to shoot. It's less snappy than 5.56, it has more of a gentle push and not nearly as much recoil as 7.62x39, which already doesn't have that much to begin with. Now, this gun is extremely well gassed and runs incredibly smoothly unsuppressed even without a muzzle brake. The brake really just makes it even better. It also suppresses really well with my Dead Air Sandman S even without a KNS piston. Now, would it be even better suppressed with an adjustable piston? Yeah, probably. But I heard that because they only make the KNS piston for the Galil Ace in 7.62 or 5.56 and not 5.45, the closest you can get is the 5.56 piston, which apparently doesn't run reliably unsuppressed. I'm really happy with how the gun runs as it is, so I decided not to mess with it beyond that. Now, shooting 5.45x39 out of this gun is really what gave me the fever and led to me getting my Arsenal Krink as well as my 105 and 74, so in a roundabout way, this gun was really the catalyst for starting this channel. So it definitely holds a special place in my heart for that. Alright, so let's talk about how I have my Galil Ace configured. So for starters, they actually make the Galil Ace in multiple different barrel lengths, but I went with the 8-inch shorty because it balances really well and gives kind of that Krink style vibe that I'm really into. I've essentially nicknamed this gun the Israeli Krink, which is pretty much what it is. I'm also just a big fan of short barrels, so that's probably no surprise really. And even though it's a milled receiver, it's still not extremely heavy. In the configuration you see here, it weighs about 7 pounds 12.5 ounces with an empty magazine. Now to be fair, that is about 1 pound and 11 ounces heavier than my Arsenal SLR-104ur Krink build that only weighs 6 pounds and 1 ounce. But again, this Galil balances really well for me and doesn't feel like a heavy gun in my hands. It's a pretty big contrast honestly with my Arsenal SAM-7K, which also has a milled receiver but weighs 8.5 pounds. So it's about 3/4 of a pound heavier, and it's definitely noticeable on that one because it's a little bit front heavy. Now as I mentioned, I like to suppress this gun using my Dead Air Sandman S suppressor, so I had to swap out the muzzle device. I decided to go with the standard Dead Air Keymo muzzle brake, which is extremely effective at keeping my sights on target under rapid fire, while also giving me a nice secure attachment for my suppressor. I really like the way these muzzle brakes are designed to divert blast away from the shooter. It definitely works better on some platforms than others, but in general it usually works really well for me. Now the trigger in the Gen 2 Galil Ace is actually pretty good, but I wanted it to be great. So I installed an ALG AKT trigger, which was fitted by Dissident Arms. I heard there was some filing needed to get the AKT to fit in the Galil Ace, and while I'm certainly no stranger to filing and gunsmithing, when I was putting everything together for this one, I just didn't have the time to mess with it, so I was happy to pay them a little extra to have it ready to drop in when it arrived at my door. These ALG triggers are my favorite AK triggers. They're extremely light with a short and tactile reset. Now when I first got this Ace, it came from the factory as a pistol with an SBA-3 brace, so I ran it like that for a little while, but it wasn't long before I decided that I wanted to file a Form 1 and turn it into an SBR. Once the tax stamp was approved, I swapped out the factory folding buffer tube assembly for a KNS Precision 1913 picatinny rail adapter, which allows me to use a wide variety of braces and stocks. I wanted to go somewhat classic with this one, so I picked up the CNC Warrior Galil style folding stock. When you purchase it, you can choose whether you want to have it fold to the left or the right. I went with the right side folder since the charging handle is on the left on this one. I also love that the folding mechanism has a QD sling point that doesn't move with the stock when folded, and it works great with my Savvy Sniper sling. The other thing that I added after the Form 1 was approved was this Arisaka Defense vertical grip. It's a pretty minimalist design, which is what I wanted, and I find it really comfortable. It gives me a lot of leverage on the gun when controlling recoil. Then lastly, for a sight setup, I went with the Primary Arms Micro Dot and these awesome PH-2 iron sights from Occam Defense. These sights actually took about 7 months to ship to me because as I ordered them, they were in the process of redesigning them so that they could be built in-house, and I think the end result is pretty great. I've always had a soft spot for the original Galil Ace aesthetic, and I think the Gen 2 is more streamlined with a lot of the upgrades that people were making to their original Aces, but I thought it was missing just a little bit of the character of the original. The PH-2 iron sights from Occam Defense bring back some of that character for me. They also have an excellent sight picture with multiple settings for the rear aperture, and they give me a nice absolute co-witness with my Primary Arms Micro Dot. Some people aren't really fans of the new M-LOK handguards that IWI put on these, and while I will say that the RS Regulate ones that people often put on their Gen 1 Galils do look really good. I've really gotten used to this one and I love it now, honestly. It is fairly large, but it's extremely comfortable for my hands personally. Otherwise, I'm a big fan of the overall ergonomics of this gun. The pistol grip feels great and very ergonomic, especially with the ambidextrous safety, which I really like. The left side charging handle is extremely smooth and the huge paddle mag release is awesome. It's definitely one of my favorite guns to shoot, but I actually haven't shot it in several months, so I'm really excited for this, guys. Let's hit the range and have some fun with my Galil Ace Gen 2 SBR.
So guys, I want to give you an idea of what the Galil Ace sounds like both unsuppressed with the Dead Air muzzle brake versus suppressed with the Dead Air Sandman S suppressor. So I'm going to fire 2 shots unsuppressed, slow fire into the pumpkin, and then I'm going to attach the Dead Air Sandman S suppressor and fire 2 more shots suppressed, again slow fire into the pumpkin. So let's start off with 2 shots unsuppressed. Suppressed.
Alright guys, this gun is so much fun. I absolutely love it. It's incredibly smooth shooting and really feels like a premium AK experience to me. The left side reciprocating charging handle is extremely smooth and fun to operate. The pistol grip is really ergonomic and feels excellent. I absolutely love the ambidextrous safety selector. It's a really short throw with positive clicks in both safe and fire, so it feels really good to use. The oversized paddle mag release and generous mag weld make reloads easy, smooth, and fun. The CNC Warrior stock feels great against the shoulder with a really nice cheek weld. It folds and unfolds extremely easily, locks in place nice and tight, and the QD sling point works great with my Savvy Sniper sling. If I remember correctly, I think I got the 8-inch CNC Warrior stock. I believe they also offer a 9-inch version. There were a couple of times today that I wished I had a little bit more length of pull. But overall, it really felt excellent to me, and I definitely recommend it. The Arisaka Defense vertical grip felt great and gave me a lot of extra leverage on the gun while I was controlling recoil. And personally, I've really grown to love this handguard. It's a little bit tall, but it's pretty thin, and feels very sleek and ergonomic to me. I really enjoyed the Occam Defense iron sights with the primary arms microdot. I think this is a really great combination for this gun. Now, I've got to say, as much as I love these Dead Air muzzle brakes, I'm not sure this is really the best choice for this gun. It is insanely loud. I actually remember earlier this year when I was testing it out, one of my neighbors asked me if I was shooting a cannon. It's just a huge boom that's very visceral feeling with a lot of flash as well. And while it is very flat shooting while using this brake, I think it's probably a little overkill. I think it was actually overcompensating a little bit for me. After seeing the performance of the single port key micro brake on my CZ Bren 2, I'm kind of thinking maybe something like that would be a little bit of a better fit for this gun. And while I do run this muzzle brake on several of my guns with very little concussion, there's actually quite a bit of concussion with this muzzle brake on this short 8-inch 545 barrel, guys. Once I got used to it, it's actually very fun, extremely visceral and intense feeling. But keep in mind, I am shooting outside in the open air in the woods. So I think if you brought a setup like this to an indoor range, you and everyone else around you would probably hate you. It would be just really uncomfortable for everyone involved, I think. But like I said, outside, once you get used to it, the big boom and flash is kind of fun. And once you get used to the concussion, this gun can shoot super fast. And a lot of that speed really comes from the ALG AKT trigger, which ran beautifully for me today. I've said it plenty of times before, but this is absolutely one of my favorite AK triggers. And it's really a perfect fit for this platform, in my opinion. Now that said, while there is a huge boom and quite a bit of concussion, the actual felt recoil impulse is extremely smooth on this gun when shooting unsuppressed. But I will say that suppressing this gun with the Dead Air Sandman S changes the feel quite a bit. There's no concussion at all, and I actually found it pretty quiet and comfortable at the shooter's ear. You definitely still need ear protection for sure, but it's much more comfortable on the ears and face than shooting it unsuppressed. But without a good way to adjust the gas system, this gun is quite a bit punchier when shooting suppressed for me. Now, it's certainly not uncomfortable by any means. Quite the contrary, it's actually very comfortable, but there's a little bit more punch in the shoulder and quite a bit more sight movement when shooting suppressed. Additionally, the Sandman S with the e-brake installed as I have it here is a pretty long and fairly heavy suppressor, so I kind of felt like it threw off the balance of the gun a little bit for me. I'm currently waiting for a tax stamp approval on my Dead Air Sierra 5 suppressor, which I think is going to be a little bit of a better fit for this gun. I'm really interested in trying that out. But the lack of concussion definitely makes this gun a lot of fun to shoot suppressed. And it's really not too overgassed either, but it would benefit from a K&S piston. Unfortunately, I'm under the impression that it most likely wouldn't run very well on suppressed with a K&S piston, so I'm probably just going to leave it alone. I'd say the action and the recoil is a little bit more aggressive and violent when shooting suppressed. Whereas when shooting unsuppressed, even though I've got a lot of concussion with that Dead Air muzzle brake, the recoil impulse is noticeably smoother. I've got a lot less muzzle and sight movement as well. So I think if I had to state a preference, I think with the way I have it configured here, I honestly prefer shooting it unsuppressed versus suppressed because once you get used to it, the recoil impulse is extremely smooth, it's very flat shooting, and the huge boom, concussion, and muzzle flash make it a really visceral shooting experience. Now, at the end of the day, I definitely have to agree with people that say the Galil Ace is ultimately an improved AK platform. With the ambidextrous safety, the left side charging handle, the full-length picatinny rail, the high-quality milled receiver, excellent quality fit and finish, and extremely smooth action, it all really adds up to something that feels like one of the most premium AK experiences you can have. But with all that said, guys, I will say, as much as I do definitely love the Galil Ace, there's absolutely no way I'm giving up my traditional AKs. They just have so much character and so many different ways they can be configured, and so many little intricacies that make AKs a really fun and visceral experience. And again, as much as I really do love the IWI Galil Ace, in some ways maybe it's almost a little bit too polished and fantastic, and lacking some of the quirks and character that makes the AK platform what it is. But again, honestly, in terms of build quality, fit and finish, manual of arms, and the overall shooting experience, the Galil Ace is really, really hard to beat. So that's going to be all for today, guys. We got a lot more videos coming up soon, including more AKs, ARs, PCCs, handguns, and shotguns. Remember to like and subscribe, ring the bell, stay tuned, and thanks for stopping by.